Hey guys, it's Greg. Oh, I'll sit up a little bit here. Uh, this is something that is shocking and unbelievable. I'll have another video come out a little later about this. I'm putting all the information together. But I just want to get this out. This is some news that needs to be gotten out. And I'll do a more detailed video with pictures and whatnot. And a lot more information. But this needs to be told. Okay? The other day, I was looking at the JFK assassination stuff because of the Mandela Effect stuff, and I happened to notice that there's an extra part to the Mandela Effect on that car that I didn't recognize prior, and I don't know if that's happened since it first changed or if it's happened recently. But I'm gonna say the Mandela Effect now, but this is not what this video is about. Okay, I'll talk about the Mandela Effect of it afterwards. But what I saw was that the car had a Continental Kit on it. That car never had a Continental Kit on it. And if you don't know what a Continental Kit is, that's the spare tire in the back, right off the back of the trunk, the round hump. And that's why it's called a Continental Kit, because it was on the Lincoln Continental. Other manufacturers made cars, and you could order a Continental Kit on it, and they call it a Continental Kit because it was on the Lincoln Continental first. Okay, that car never had that. And I've seen a documentary. I remember watching a documentary about that car having an extra wide bumper, like a step-up bumper, like trucks have today, with the handles for the Secret Service to be able to jump up on in case they needed it. Alright, I'll talk about that in a little bit. Here we go. This is just ridiculous. I mean, the reality is getting so crazy. I mean, this is shocking. Can you believe? Do you honestly believe anybody? Can anybody honestly believe the story of this car now? That this car was used for 13 years in service after JFK was killed in it. LBJ, Nixon, and Ford used this car now in this reality. As egotistical as politicians are, and especially the president, what president is going to want to ride in that car? Because the car is going to be the star, not him. And just on that point alone. But now let's get to this point. LBJ getting shot, or not LBJ, sorry. JFK getting shot and killed in that car was the crime of the century. It's a historical event. We're talking about it now. I mean, what, Trump just released some extra information supposedly there wasn't anything in it. That was a big deal then, or now. It was just a real big deal. But before the internet got real big in 93 or so, you still had bulletin board systems to, use your modem to get into. Just a bulletin board system, which was basically like a chat room, which wasn't exactly like a chat room, and they had groups dedicated to this conspiracy. But the reason that the government gives for this car being used again was that it was too expensive to build another car for the president. But wait until you hear how much the car was. In '63, actually when they had the car built, and it's a '61, so it was the equivalent to what $1.5 million is today. That was the cost to build that car. Now, do you honestly believe, or does anybody expect anybody to believe, that the U.S. government can't afford another $1.5 million, or what the equivalent of that was back then, to build another car for the president to ride in? Reusing that car is the equivalent of taking the steel from 9/11 and building a bunch of McDonald's with it. That's how believable that is. Not to mention they sent the car off, had it retrofitted with titanium armor. Don't you think that costs money? They immediately flew that car out on a C-130 to a different location. That was a crime scene. That car should have been left in where it was parked and gone over by a team to get all the evidence. Everybody always says, well, Oswald got killed, case solved. No, that doesn't solve the case. Oswald never had a trial. No evidence was ever presented. All you were presented with was the news. They gave you the guy carrying the rifle, them finding him in a theater. He supposedly got off 3 shots under 6 seconds with an old Italian bolt rifle. Just like on Full Metal Jacket when the drill sergeant is somewhat bragging because he was a Marine. That book suppository building. Love that movie. But come on, man. Do you honestly believe any president is going to ride in that car? Now, LBJ might have, because I think the man was evil. I think he had something to do with it. And he might have got his rocks off wanting to ride in that car. That might be why it was retrofitted. That might be why he did. He might have told them to do that shit. But I don't... anybody with any sense would have known that they would have taken that car because of... especially because of... look at what time it is. It's in the 60s, man. Early 60s. People that day were not desensitized to that kind of crap like we are today. There were people screaming and crying and just like we were with 9/11. They were traumatized. that car being reused for 13 years. Actually, it was used longer. They didn't decommission it until 77. They actually, after the presidents got through using it, they wanted to use it for, smaller events. I'm talking like the Secretary of Agriculture riding around in it. Come on, you can't believe that. That's what this reality today says this car happened. Are you kidding me? No. No, I mean, reality is breaking down. This is just crazy. This is crazy. No president's going to want to ride in that car. The car would be the star, not him. But that's not even, that part's not even, we're talking about a historical event. The car would have been put up in a warehouse for 10, 15 years maybe, until enough time had passed for people to be able to accept that car to be put into a museum. But it would have at least been put up for a few years, long enough to go through all the evidence. Because Oswald getting shot and killed does not prove that he killed JFK. There was no due process. There was really no investigation. Warrant Commission is bullshit. You ever read that? And then have you ever seen all the people where they said that they misled them, that they changed their testimony? I mean, no. The whole thing is a big-ass conspiracy. Right before the internet got big, like I said, that you had bulletin boards that were dedicated to this stuff. And then in 91, Oliver Stone puts out JFK, and the very first thing that comes on that movie, and there's truth in movies, okay? We get more truth out of movies than you can imagine. The very first thing that comes on in that movie is Eisenhower warning us about the military-industrial complex. And then Kevin Costner's rant, man. How much more truth do you want? They for some reason they have to tell you the truth, or they want to tell us the truth. I don't know if it's like a script, like Matt at Quantum of Conscience says all the time. Maybe them having to tell us the truth is like in, say, a play term or a story term is foreshadowing. Or maybe it's tied to, like the Bible says. God said that He'll never do anything without revealing it through His prophets first. And I imagine that if that's the case, He holds Satan to the same rule. And Satan has to tell us before he's going to do something, or what he's done, or what he's doing. So, one way or another, in some form or fashion, and it's usually through movies, we get a lot of truth. Anyway, I'm getting off the point. The point of, can you honestly believe that that car was used for 13 years? And 3 later presidents used that car to ride in. There's no way No way. How much more crazy can you get than that? I mean, we're talking about a major historical event. Like I said, that's the equivalent of taking the steel from 9/11 and using it to build a bunch of McDonald's and Walmarts and Burger Kings. That's how ridiculous it is. Anyway, the information, I'll go ahead and give you a couple of sites you can get the information from, but I'm going to do a video with pictures and details and all the information, but this is just a kind of a teaser, a preview, and I'm working on it. I've been working on it. I just hadn't done any video capturing as of now, but I just felt like I need to get this out. Shocking revelation. There's no way you're going to ever make me believe that in any real world event, or what I used to think was the real world, that probably the best president of the century gets assassinated in this car, which is now in a museum, and it's a big damn deal. You're going to get me to believe that this car was retrofitted and reused, put back into commission. 3 other presidents used it to ride around in, and then they allowed the Secretary of Agriculture or the Secretary of Agriculture to ride around in this car until 1977. No. That's not realistic. If we're in a matrix, they are screwing shit up big time. It's breaking down to where you ought to be able to make people see this stuff. I mean, this was a big one. You can use this. People are not going to believe that. And anyone that does believe it is either part of the system, NPC, background person, not real, or just damn stupid. Now, as far as the Continental Kit, that's something I just noticed. I don't know if that has... When I first saw that the car changed, I don't know if I remember if there was a Continental Kit on the back of it. I just noticed the partition and the 6 people at that time. That was just the part that I knew was wrong. I want to say that I probably would have noticed that Continental Kit. So we may have a Mandela Effect that has changed inside of a Mandela Effect. I can't say for sure. I don't remember if when I first noticed that that was a Mandela Effect and the car changed. But regardless, I can tell you that at least from my perspective, the car never had it on there. That would have defeated the purpose of having the step-up bumper and the handles anyway. That would have been in the way. I mean, that, have you seen a Continental Kit on the back of the car? It's huge. That would have been in the way. They wouldn't, you know, that would have hindered their ability to get to the president. So I don't know if I don't know because I remember noticing the partition and knowing that there were only 4 people in that car. And for me, I mean, I looked at this stuff through the 90s and early 2000s, especially after the movie came out. I mean, you know, everybody was looking at it. I had a guy that worked with me that was just dedicated to this stuff. I mean, he was like a detective. He was going to figure out who killed JFK. But I know that that partition wasn't in that car because to me, I always remember this Bruder film looking like the driver had taken a pistol, turned around, and shot JFK. And whether you ever saw that or not, I'm sure that you've heard chatter about that. You know, people talking about the driver did it. Well, how in the world could the driver do it if there's a partition there? It wouldn't have never looked like that. So when I first noticed the Mandela effect about that car, it was the 6 people and the partition. That was the biggest part of it. I don't remember noticing the Continental Kit. But since then, the other day when I did the book thing, and I've been looking through that and looking through the pictures and stuff, and I got to looking through, and I noticed that the car's got a Continental Kit on the back of it. And I was like, I didn't notice that before. And then I realized, why in the world would that be on there anyway? So I called my dad and asked him. I said, do you remember that car having a Continental Kit on it? And he said, no, it didn't. And I know it didn't either. I just don't know if when the whole car changed in the beginning, if that was part of the first Mandela effect, or if we've had another one involving that since. That's what I don't know. But I do know that that car did not have it on it. Not that one. That particular car did not have it on it. And I did watch a documentary in the 90s about that car. Discovery Channel or something. History Channel maybe. I don't know. It was either late 90s or early 2000s. Watching a documentary about that car. And it talking about the step-up bumpers for the car and the handles, the purpose of that. So that wouldn't have been on there. Anyway, this is just a kind of a intro preview teaser. I'm going to get all the other stuff together. I'm still working on that video, so I'm about ready to start filming or capturing and discussing and then doing full screen capture to show you pictures and whatnot. So, but I just thought that I've got to get this information out first, and I'll put the links to Wikipedia for you and ss-x-100.com. That's the model of the car, ss-x-100. Lincoln Continental ss-x-100. Okay. So, the U.S. government just can't afford to spend that much more on building a new car. Not to mention the fact that you know that they've got more than one car for the president. I mean, he probably got 5 or 6 cars. So That car was involved in a historical event, a crime that never was solved, and it should have been left on the scene to go over, but it was immediately flown out on a C-130 to a different location where they talked about they had to pick out brain matter and everything else. That would have taken place on scene. But the idea of in the early 60s, when people's moral standard, their values, their sensitivity to things, that would have been an outrage to them to know that they were reusing that car. It's an outrage now. And we've been desensitized. But it's ridiculous to think that they would reuse that car. Okay, I see I've rambled for a while. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to go this long. So if you're still with me, I appreciate it. Leave a yes or no if you believe this. Okay, as always, I hope you have a good one. Today's Friday night, so have a good weekend, and please try to be good to everyone else. Let's try to change the world and be good to everybody. I always do. I mean, I live in the South. I still hold the door open for people. I still say yes sir. I say yes ma'am. I'm 49 years old. Unlike somebody replied on one of Matt's videos and said, "How old is Greg?" 10. Because they misunderstood what he said, thinking that I said there has never been chemtrails. People don't seem to listen to what's actually being said. What I said and what Matt said was a relative of mine thinks that there's never been chemtrails. That very same relative I've been arguing with for a couple of years now, trying to prove that there are a such thing as chemtrails and that there never was before. But he remembers B-52 bombers leaving chemtrails. And he was a kid at the time, right after World War II, when B-52 bombers were flying all over the place. So that was during the Cold War era. Anyway, I'm not 10, I'm 49. And I still say yes sir and yes ma'am. I still hold the door open for people at convenience stores and places like that. So try to be good to someone. Anyway, have a good weekend. Have a good one and be good.